Hi, kindergarten readers. We're going to read the story The Cloud Spinner this morning. And remember, we're starting our social responsibility unit. And so we are reading books that are themed around social responsibility. That means that they have a storyline that revolves around social responsibility. I haven't told you exactly yet what social responsibility is, but I'm hoping that you'll be able to figure them out by reading all the stories, all right? So we're going to read The Cloud Spinner. It was written by Michael Catchpole and it was illustrated by Allison J. The Cloud Spinner. The Cloud Spinner. There once was a boy who could weave cloth from the clouds. He had a spinning wheel and a loom on top of a hill. As the clouds passed with a whirl of the wheel, he would spin them into thread, gold in the morning with the rising sun, white in the afternoon, and crimson in the evening, just as his mother had taught him. Do you see him up there? He's taking the clouds. Then, with a clickety-clack of his loom, he would weave the thread into cloth, and as he worked, he sang a simple tune his mother had taught him. Enough is enough, and not one stitch more. The boy, he was wise. That means he was smart. He spun just enough thread and wove just enough cloth to make 2 scarves. One of pure white he wore over his head when it was hot to protect him from the sun, and the other he wore when it was cold. It was a twist and a twirl of gold and white and crimson, soft as a mouse's touch and warm as a roasted chestnut. His mother had taught him well. One day, on a chilly day, the boy walked down the hill, a basket in his hand, headed to the market, and his scarf around his neck. The market was full of great excitement. The king was on his way. There's the king on his horse. Soon the king rode grandly by, hardly noticing the curtsies and the cheers. But what his greedy eyes did notice was the wonderful scarf of gold and white and crimson. Tell me, boy, where can I get a scarf of such fine cloth? Nowhere on earth, the boy replied. Then how did you get yours? Snapped the king. I made it, said the boy. Then you will make another for me. A longer one, much longer, for I am the king. But the boy said, it would not be wise to have a long scarf made from this cloth. Your Majesty does not need it. How dare you tell me what is wise? Shouted the king. I order you to make me that scarf. So the boy went home to the top of the hill, and with a whirl of the wheel, he began to spin. He spun the clouds as they passed in the morning and were gold with the rising sun. He spun in the afternoon as the clouds sailed past white as snowdrifts. He spun in the evening when the clouds were crimson, and then with a clickety-clack of the loom, he wove the thread into a long, long scarf. The king was overjoyed. His scarf was soft as a mouse's touch and warm as roasted chestnuts. Now make me a cloak of this glorious cloth, he ordered, and dresses galore for the queen and my daughter the princess. But the boy shook his head. It would not be wise to have so many cloths made from this. Your Majesty does not need them. The king's face was a twist of scowls. I want those clothes and I order you to make them. So the boy went home to the top of the hill, and with a whirl of the wheel, he began to spin. He spun the clouds as they passed in the morning and were gold with the rising sun. He spun in the afternoon as the clouds sailed past with white as snowdrifts. And he spun in the evening when the clouds were crimson. And he spun and he spun, and it got harder and harder. For soon there were fewer and fewer clouds. Do you notice that? Look at the clouds at the top, but then they become less and less. And at last, with a clickety-clack of the loom, the boy began to weave the thread into cloth beneath a cloudless sky. And as he worked, he sadly sang, "Enough is enough, and not one stitch more." But the king was delighted. He put on his wonderful cloak, and the queen and the princess each put on a beautiful flowing dress. "Surely," he boasted, "there's no other king as magnificent and wise as me." "Not one," said the queen. And the princess? Well, she said nothing. But day after day, as they wore their marvelous clothes, not one drop of rain fell from the cloudless sky. "Your Majesty," pleaded the villagers, "our animals are thirsty and our crops are all dying." "There's nothing I can do," shouted the king, walking this way and that, his cloak railing behind him. "Why are you moaning to me?" And the princess, she still said nothing. My friends, it can't rain for the animals because the boy had to use all the clouds to make the cloak and the dresses. But that evening, the princess, she quietly slipped out of the palace, and she wore a simple dress, and in her arms was a bundle, soft as a mouse's touch and warm as roasted chestnuts. She crossed the dry, dusty gardens and the brown fields beyond, and she climbed to the top of the hill. Stepping forward, she knocked on the boy's door. "Is it too late to undo what has been done?" The boy smiled, and he said simply, "There is still time." So he's giving the clouds back. When the king awoke the next morning, he could not find his wonderful cloak, and the queen could not find her beautiful dress. They searched the palace for the clothes that the boy had made, but they were gone. The princess took more than just her dress. She took their things too. But while outside, the villagers danced for joy as the rain began to fall from the clouds in the sky. It rained and rained and rained. And the king and queen looked out and they wondered. And the princess, with a smile as bright as a rainbow, she stood on top of the hill and she sang, "Enough is enough and not one stitch more." The end. All right, friends, it's always a good reminder that, while it's fun to have lots of things, I like having lots of things, sometimes it's better to only have what you need. All right, until next time, bye.